So, herzlich willkommen zum Golf in Leicht Online-Kongress beziehungsweise einer weiteren, ich glaube, wir nutzen das ja auch als Podcast-Folge mit einem wirklichen Special Guest, nämlich wir konnten David Leadbetter für uns gewinnen und ich bin mir ganz sicher, jeder von euch kennt David Leadbetter. Als ich als kleiner Junge angefangen habe, Golf zu spielen, war er der erste Golftrainer, der angefangen hat, Golfbücher zu schreiben, Videos zu verkaufen und ich bin wirklich stolz, dass wir ihn hier haben. David, thanks for having you. Thanks for your time. I think it's right now. It's 10 o'clock in the US, so you're back from your coffee, and nice to see you, and I hope everything is well.
Nice to see you, Fabian. Yeah, good. Always good to talk to golfers in your part of the world, in Germany and Austria and Switzerland. Spent a lot of time over there over the years, so. It's great. It's great to be able to help. In this case, a lot of amateur golfers, right, who want to improve their game. I mean, golf is a game where everybody wants to get better, and maybe I can give them the secret. Maybe.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if you have the secret. I just told the viewers and all the attendees. I just told him that I started playing golf in the middle of the 80s, and I think you're one of the first teaching professionals who did some marketing with selling videos, how to teach and how to practice. I think one of my first golf books was one of your teaching books. I think how to practice golf, something like this. So right. It was a big thing, and maybe can you describe and one of the presidents, Stefan Quirmbach, said every teaching pro in the world should spend 10 cents of every euro or dollar to David Leadbetter because he made teaching popular. Yeah, so that's
Well, I'm still waiting for the money.
Yeah, still waiting. Maybe after this call, after this video session. Let's see. Let's see. David, maybe let's start with, can you tell us something about your teaching philosophy? Because I think everybody knows your name, everybody knows David Leadbetter Academies, everybody knows you're teaching major championship winners, you're teaching tour pros, and maybe we can start with, what is your teaching philosophy? What are your ideas behind your teaching?
Yeah, it's interesting there, Fabian, because it's philosophy tends to restrict you a little bit to say, okay, well, this is what I do. I think golf is one of those games where it's really important to talk about fundamentals with people. I mean, that's simple stuff, grip, posture, alignment, and ball position, so on and so forth. But in the end, we're all individuals. I mean, if you look at the top players, okay, there's no two swings exactly the same. I mean, everybody's different. It's like a fingerprint, right? They're all different. So I think as teachers, we have to be very careful about having a method. Although I've written a lot of books and done videos and I've been described as very technical, I like to consider myself as somebody who tailors instruction to the individual. And that's sort of my general philosophy with all our teachers around the world and at our academies. You just can't teach one thing to everybody. Mm-hmm. And so the key really being is based on who you are teaching for the most part, whether how athletic they are, when they started to play, how much time they put into the game practicing and playing, their goals, their desires. So you have to take all that into account when you're trying to create what I would term a blueprint for this person's success in the game, because golf is very much, as we know, it's a technical sport, and so if your technique is better, then more likely you're going to play better. I mean, and there's a lot of different aspects to the game. Let's face it, it's not just having a good swing and standing on the driving range and looking good, right? I mean, you've got to have a good short game. You've got to have a good mental approach, strategy. There's a lot of aspects that go into playing this game. That's why we love teaching young players, because you can help to mold them at a young age and develop. So it's like probably skiing, right? If you learn to ski when you're 5 or 6 years old, you're going to have it for life. But you get in your 30s and 40s and try to learn to ski, you're more cautious and you think more. You have outside thoughts that come into your head, and it's the same with golf. And so it's more difficult when, it's not impossible, certainly, but it's more difficult when you take the game up later in life because, as I say, you have all these preconceived ideas, you have so much information thrown at you where, to some extent, when you're young, there's a certain amount of naturalness that people have in their game. So developing juniors, I mean, we have a huge junior academy. We have a full-time junior academy where kids come and it's and they go to school and so on. And it's great working with these young kids because it's and because I say you can help to mold them a little bit. And so you can work on developing sort of and this applies to everybody from a philosophy standpoint, is developing a technique that they, first of all, they can understand when they go and practice. They know what they're working on. It's not just going out hitting balls and getting a tip here and a tip there. You know,
yes.
As I say, tips are for horse races, right? Right. It's not necessarily for golf. You need to have something that, okay, you understand what you're trying to do, you work at it, and you've got to be patient. And so that's why going to, you know, a good teaching professional can help to guide you because they help to give you a plan for success, to help to fulfill your potential, whatever that is. I mean, it may be your potential is shooting 100, okay? Maybe your potential is shooting under par. But so you have to guide and develop a plan for each individual. So it's my philosophy is very general. I mean, yes, I talk about basics a lot with people. And, you know, when you're working with different levels of players, obviously I've worked a lot of my career, I've worked with tour players and high-level players. And so these players already have maybe the athletic ability to strike a golf ball. Or what they want is to learn to understand how they can control it, how eliminate some of the bad shots that they hit. This is what we're talking about at the top level. When you're talking about at the average level, your club golfer who wants to go out and enjoy themselves is trying to make solid contact on a regular basis and developing a rhythm and a flow. And so golf, the top players make it look very simple, but you know, it's a very complex sport, right? I mean, just one little thing can upset the apple cart. So it's interesting. I mean, that's why golf coaches, golf instructors, whatever you want to call us, you know, we're never going to be eliminated. They're never going to be able to just get a machine or a computer or technology or artificial intelligence to actually get somebody to play great golf. Okay, unless, you know, maybe if robots start playing, then that's another thing. But you know, people aren't robots, right? They're emotional. They think differently. They move differently. They have different issues. They have different desires, different goals. So we have to be sort of a part-time psychologist as well. I mean, no, psychology plays a big role in sport, and sports psychologists out there, people like Dr. Bob Rotella and what have you. But the fact is that as golf coaches, we have to get inside somebody's mind. I try to get inside somebody's mind and sort of picture, okay, if I was them and I'm in their situation, how would I adapt to the philosophy or my ideas of how they should do it. So everybody's different. I mean, that's the exciting thing. If everybody was the same, look, and I know, hey, if you're teaching beginners, there's a little bit of a similarity about the way you go about things, right? But once you get to a certain point, I mean, there's a lot more individualism, and that's important to make sure that, you know, it never works trying to teach everybody the same thing. Okay, I believe in this. I believe in a flat swing. I believe in an upright swing. I believe in a bowed wrist. I believe in, you know, it's like, you know what? It's like, because if you look at every player, you know, I mean, you look at Henrik Stenson's wrist position at the top, and you look at Dustin Johnson's wrist position at the top. So, I mean, who's right, who's wrong, right? I mean, you know, so that's the fascinating thing about the game to me as a coach and a teacher, because we're always learning different ways in order to get the message across. Because in the final analysis, it's all about how you communicate. It's all about communication, you know, and it's tough. You know, that's why some teachers get on with some players. There's a chemistry there. It's very difficult to be all things to all people but having said that, you know, you need to try to be a bit of a chameleon, right? A chameleon changes colors depending on the environment they're in. And we have to do that as a teacher. You know, I mean, some people I mean, some even tour players, you've got to be very, very simple with them. You've got to be, describe it and feel and visualizing. Other players, they want, hey, you got to get into the technique. They want to understand the technique. They're a little more anal, So it's very interesting. So it's very hard to sum up in a sentence what my philosophy is, because I look at every case as being a little bit different. Big like a doctor. Somebody goes to a doctor, their illness is different to somebody else's.
Although it's the same illness, maybe, yeah. So they're
exactly.
different ways of treatment. So your philosophy is there is no philosophy, because every swing is a fingerprint.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned,
and having said that, it's really important to teach the game simply, because golf is a game of cause and effect, right? The problem is because a lot of people want something immediately. Yes. People are trying to fix the effect. Okay, maybe they're reverse pivoting or something. Well, maybe the reverse pivot is a result of something else, right? Maybe the fact that the club is going outside is causing. So what's causing what, right? So if you're trying to fix the effect, you're probably on a losing battle there, because I say it's important that you get to the root cause of the problem, and that's why I'm a big believer from a technique standpoint in getting set up to the ball correctly, because I think that's where you have really control over what you're doing, your grip, your posture, ball position, alignment, getting really, everybody can do that. It just takes a little time and effort and understanding. Yes. And then to me, the most important thing for me is the start of the swing. If you can get people starting the swing correctly, where they synchronize the arms on the body and you get the club moving on the right track. In fact, I'm just bringing out a little training aid right now, which I'm really excited about, because it really helps people. It's going to help people to get on the right track to start with. Because to me, if you get a good start, then you've got an excellent chance of having a good ending. Okay, but if you get off to a bad start, which is what so many amateurs do, they're, as they say in America, you're behind the 8 ball. That's a sort of a pool. You get behind that black ball, and so you're in trouble, because you're then having to compensate, and a lot of people don't have the skill level to be able to compensate from a bad start. So if you get off to a good setup, good start, you're more than halfway there. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So start with the 0 mistakes, and then from there, exactly. the rest will follow. So, but everybody heard it. The one tip you said: start with a good takeaway. So that's
exactly 100%.
Yeah. Start.
So look out for my new training aid. It'll get you off to a perfect start. It's going to be called the straightaway. You'll learn it straight away, and
okay.
I can't believe. I've been obviously with COVID, and I've actually had an injury, so I haven't been traveling as much. So I've been working on this thing. It's crazy. I said to one of my associates there, I can't believe it took me so long to figure this out, because it's really simple. And so we'll look. So out.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, we're watching out. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's your philosophy. You're watching. You're looking at first on the fundamentals. Start with 0 mistakes.
Yeah.
What then are? You mentioned some of the common mistakes. I think most amateur golfers tend to do. Looking for the one tip, looking here to fix maybe one thing that's not the thing, because the cause is with where else. But what are the common mistakes you see from the average golfer, the average Joe, as Americans say it lovely? What are these?
Well, the average Gert, right, in Germany, right? Look, I would say first of all, that term golf swing, all right, those 2 words, golf swing, if you want to put them together as one word, is very appropriate, because it is a swing, and you ideally, I always love that old expression. You need to learn to make a swing and let the ball get in the way of your swing, not try to hit the ball. Why do people make better practice swings, right, when there's no ball there? Because there's no tension and there's no consequences, right? So the first thing I would say is that many golfers, in an effort to try to hit the ball, their mind is thinking a lot, okay? So when we overthink, we create a lot of tension, and tension is a killer in the swing. the more relaxed, especially your arms. You don't have to have a loose grip, but the more relaxed your arms are, if you just clap your hands and your arm, that's the position your arm should be. We see people over the ball, they've got a thought like, okay, keep your left arm straight and keep your head down, and all these old rubbishy terms that people have thrown around for many years and are still around, unfortunately. But that tension is a killer, right? Because golf swing, it's all about flow. You look at other sports where the ball's in motion, like tennis, for instance. Okay, you're always moving to it. So if you create a little bit of rhythm, you can move to a moving object. The problem with the ball being stationary is that people tend to get stationary. They get static, okay? They don't move, and they get tight, and they get tense. And so that's why the start's so important, because people, when they grip it tightly, intensely, I don't like the word takeaway. I like the word, or the term, I like the word move away or start away, because when you take it away, you tend to take it away with your hands and your arms, right? You don't synchronize it with a little bit of movement. I'm sitting in a swivel chair here, and you can see my body's moving. Now, if I just take away with my hands and arms, okay, the club's not likely to get in a good position, and say you have no rhythm. So the first thing I'd say is that for most amateurs is to soften their arms and relax their arms at address, just to sort of, even if they've got to sort of do this sort of thing, just to get the tension out of the forearms, which then transfers itself into the neck and to the shoulders and to the upper body. So people get so tight over the ball. So it's like, you want to get to a point where you're relaxed and you sort of have a little bit of movement there. You're not just standing dead still. You want to have a little bit of foot movement there, just to sort of get yourself into motion. It's like you think in tennis, where you're serving, where you're bouncing the ball, to sort of get into a rhythm to get yourself going. So that's the first thing I would say, is get out of what I would call the hit syndrome. You've got to get into the swing syndrome. And that's why I say making 2 or 3, when you're on the practice range, making 2 or 3 practice swings, even with your eyes closed, which is a great way of feeling the swing, right? And then get up and without too much thought, just get up and swing. And so, and after a while, you'll start to find, people get into a rhythm on the range because they have a lot of balls there. They have a bucket of balls, and they can get one after another. Problem on the golf course is you've only got one shot, okay? And the consequences are, out of bounds and water hazards and people watching you and, don't do this, don't do that, don't go there. So all these negative thoughts that creep into your mind add to the tension factor. So that's why, working on a good routine where you can create this relaxation is vitally important.
Okay. So these are the common mistakes you see. I think every teacher sees them. Like there's no rhythm, the fundamentals are not right, and then on the golf course, don't play there, don't go there, or in a foursome, left is out of bounds, right is water, take care of it, and all that stuff.
A friend of mine used to race in Formula One, right? And he actually was at the Indian. He actually then transferred to Indy races, Indianapolis. So he was racing there, and if you ever watch, if you're a fan of motor racing, which I love Formula One, but going to Indianapolis and they've got all these turns and got walls everywhere, and so I said, he said, I said, because we were playing golf with him, and he said, "Oh, geez, I knew I was going to go over there. I knew I was going to hit it here." He's a pretty decent golfer. Not great, but decent. And so I said, when you're racing, I said, and there's a wall there, right? You say, don't hit the
drive
wall.
There.
Don't drive there. He says, no, I just picked my line and off we go. And I said, well, that's what you got to do in golf, right? You've got to simplify it down to the point where you think where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. So it was a good lesson for him.
So what are your? I think. Go ahead.
Yeah. So. Obviously there's a lot of flaws and errors that we see. And as I said earlier, a lot of it is at the start, when they take the club back. I think basically you see a lot of players, the one common denominator you see with all the tour players as they start the club away is that their hands always stay inside the club. Now I'll try to turn this way and you can see. So it's like, the hands, if this is my hands, the club head is always outside the hands as it moves back. When you take the club away, the tendency is for people to whip the club in behind them. And so that creates already a bad sequence, shall we say, where you've got the club around you, and then, you know, people do all sorts of things. They either continue on a flat plane, or generally speaking, they'll tend to lift it, and then they'll, you know, then they'll come over the top, and, you know, the common outside in swing that we see. That's why I wrote this book, you know, a few years ago, called The A Swing, which is an exaggerated sort of feel almost, whereby, you know, the club is this way and then loops back that way. Because if you can get somebody to get the club shallow, coming down, coming more from the inside and on a shallower plane, they've then got a chance of hitting a draw. The problem is, if you're going this way and this way, you know, you're always going to be hitting a pull or a slice, you know. Yeah. So that's why I wrote that book ostensibly with amateurs in mind. I got criticized for it because, oh, that's too exaggerated. But, you know, you look at some, you know, they've even got a young player on the US tour, Matt Wolff, you know, really, you know, if you look at him, I mean, it's like, bro, you know, because the most important thing, remember, your setup enhances what you're going to do as you start. Your start enhances what the club does to go into the top. The top enhances what you're going to do coming down. It's a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said it's a cause and effect. You've got to look at, okay, what's causing it? Yeah, you see this, and it's like, okay, well, you can't just fix that unless you go back further down the line and fix what's happened before.
Yeah. Everybody's asking. I mean, you know it as well. But my left arm is like chicken wing. It's coming up here. Yeah. Right. So I need to straighten it. And it's always like, okay, if you straighten it, you will broke it, because you will hit it in the ground as hard as you can. Yeah.
I mean, the chicken wing is the effect, right? I mean, the fact they're coming so far across the ball, and they're so narrow that the left elbow breaks down. You know.
So these are at least, I think, some of the common mistakes you see. We see all of your academy pros see.
All the time,
What are your ideas to overcome these mistakes? I mean, you mentioned, okay, start with a good fundamental, and then everything, every move in the swing forces another reaction. So your move away, your take away forces to your backswing, and so on. So what are your ideas about overcoming these mistakes, or your tips? Huh? At least we're not as...
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, look, I've always been a big believer in little drills and exercise. And I brought tapes out and had books on drills, because to me, in the end, to get the technique right, it's all about helping to communicate the right feel to people. Okay. And you can get feel through doing certain drills. I mean, you know, we've got literally hundreds of drills depending on a person's problem. I mean, number one, I mean, look, I wouldn't call it a drill. It's sort of a drill where you grip the club up here, and you actually push the club behind you to feel the club more on the fingers, because as a general rule, okay, most amateurs will tend to grip too much up in the palm. So anytime anybody wears a hole out in their glove here, you know it's way too much up in the palm. So you've got to get the club down more towards the fingers. That's important. A posture drill, for instance, just to sort of make sure that your posture is in the right position, to sort of hold the club up in front of you and bend from the hips. Remember, that's important. Bend from the hips, not from the waist. Mm-hmm. If you bend from the hips, you actually get the right upper torso position there with the right amount of knee flex. One, you know, I mean, I'll just tell you a couple of my favorite drills. I mean, where you actually start the club forward of the ball, you know, maybe a few centimeters forward of the ball, and then start your movement from there, because this helps to get the club swinging straight away rather than just simply taking it away, right? Because you swing it away, you start forward of the ball a few centimeters and move it back. It's a great exercise that really, I mean, from a rhythm standpoint, and to get the club moving correctly to start with, it's one of my favorite drills. And so hitting, say, maybe 6 shots in a row where you stand up and you move, boom, and you move up to the next one, you move up to the next one. This gets you away from overthinking. So there's a lot of drills that really overcome certain problems. I mean, look, the pivot drill, for instance, because to me, you always break the swing down into 3 components. Okay, you've got your setup, number one, which really you can do in front of a mirror. You can get that right, checking in a mirror, get your grip right, get your posture right, look at it from different angles in a mirror. It's very helpful, that. Then you've got number 2 is the way your body moves. So you can create the right body movement without a club, okay, where you can just simply put your hands across your chest like so, or you can put a club behind your back or on your elbows. There's various forms of pivot drill, and you can actually start to work on the movement where you feel that, okay, that you're winding into your right side. If you're a right-handed golfer, you move forward with your lower body, then you unwind. And you make this movement with your torso, which doesn't take long to actually get the feel for. And then, obviously, then you've got a situation where now you've got to add the third component, which is what the club, the hands, the wrists, and the arms are doing, okay? So then you can actually work. That's why I love people working on wedge play, because number 1, it's easier to hit good shots with wedges. It builds confidence. Number 2, you can sort of swing it back to about halfway, okay? So where you create almost like a full wrist cock where you're halfway back, right? And then you rotate your body through and you keep everything sort of nicely connected. Because if there is a fourth component, it's how you synchronize your arms and your body together. So this is another little drill that we use, and people have, I'll tell you a funny story about it, but you put a towel under your arms, right? And you can, we've all seen that. I made that pretty popular in the early years, where it'll only allow you to go halfway back and halfway through. But what it does, it helps to synchronize your arms and your body together rather than your arms working independently of your body. Mm-hmm. When I brought a video out many years ago, I went to Italy not long after, and the guy says, this new tape you brought out is really popular. People love the towel drill. So we drove by a driving range there, and sure enough, there were about 3 or 4 people with a towel. The thing is that they were hitting a driver with it, though, which was not what we suggested. It was just a wedge we wanted them to do it with. But, they all looked like that. So, I don't know. Something was, I think, mislaid in the interpretation there from English to Italian or something. But anyway, but the fact is, it's a really, really good drill. Not only does it help your wedge play, but it helps you to get this connection or link between your arms and your body. And so working halfway back to halfway through, it helps to establish sort of the right, somebody, for instance, who gets it very flat going back, if you get the start and you get that club more up on its end. I've always been a big believer there, Fabian, for the most part, not for everybody, but for the most part, of trying to have the club more vertical on the backswing. So if you move correctly, the club will then shallow coming down. Yes. That's why, this is sort of the basis for that A swing. It was an exaggerated feel where it was almost this way to get this way. But it's like you create this sort of movement here where a lot of people who get it on one plane, listen, if you're a really good player and you've got a lot of talent, Ben Hogan did it, so you can't say it doesn't work, obviously. But if you look now, I would say probably in estimating, probably 70% of the tour players will actually have some a little more than others. Will have it steeper, steep to shallow, to shallow. That's the key. And so, whenever most amateurs get the club too shallow or too flat going back, it creates the opposite. So those are a couple of things that, as I say, drills, I love coming out with drills and even new drills, depending on the problem, so you've got good players drills, you've got, you've got high handicap amateur drills. One of the best, even still today, one of the great teachers of our time, really, who used to come to Germany a lot was John Jacobs, right? So John Jacobs, he was a great teacher. He was very simple. He didn't have maybe a lot of substance to what it was. Very much, the arms, and it was just arms and hips. So he talked about that a lot. If you're slicing, you need more arms. If you're hooking, you need more hips. More hips, in a nutshell. But he get a lot of people to hit balls. Even from a lot of amateurs who sort of overuse the body. Just standing with your feet pretty close together and just hitting balls there, just to even swinging halfway back to halfway through. That's still some of the old stuff is still pretty good. The problem with a lot of instruction today, it's geared so much. You go on YouTube. There's like 7 million pieces of advice on YouTube. Everybody everybody's got an idea on what this and that, but a lot of it, in my opinion, looking at it, is that they're assuming that people are really good players and they practice a lot. Okay, but people don't. People have less time to play and practice today than they ever did. So you got to make it simple, get the message across pretty simply. Yeah, if I'm working with a tour level player, yes, you're going to go into it more depth. But if I'm dealing with somebody who's playing once a week and maybe practices maybe 30 minutes a week, you're limited to what you can actually do. That's why it's important, I think, for people to sort of learn to have maybe a couple little training aids where they can actually practice the movement at home. That's why I say learn to make the swing, get repetitive and consistent with the swing. And so when you go out and play, you're not overthinking about all the positions in the swing. You're thinking in terms of the swing as being a whole rather than all the parts of it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, nice. So keep it simple, keep it individual. What's the takeaway for me right now as a teacher?
Another American saying, right? The KISS theory. Keep it short and simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, same in Germany. Keep it simple. So I know you're short on time, David. But
no problem. This is
You're not okay. Perfect.
You can carry on. I'm free this morning, so
perfect. Nice. Okay, so but we don't want to steal your time. So you mentioned some tour players. So you're teaching tour players. You're the coach to Nick Faldo, who's one of the biggest European golf players we ever had. You're Masters Sieger and so on. A lot of different other players you're teaching. What's the difference between, let's say, a USPGA Tour superstar and the average Joe or the average Gert? Yeah, so whatever. What's the difference in teaching? That's everybody who's asking me. Oh, it's much more nicer to teach good players instead of amateur players. So what's your opinion and what you're thinking about teaching superstars versus teaching amateur golfers?
Well, there is a different approach, certainly. No question about it. Look, when we're talking about somebody who can probably hit the ball 280 meters, but they're worried about the odd shot that goes to the right. It sort of gets them into trouble. Okay, where you get some golfers say, listen, I just want to learn to make contact on a regular basis, or eliminate my slice. But for me as a teacher, it's interesting. Yes, I've loved teaching tour players. I've worked with players who've won, I don't know, over 20 majors and had 6 or 7 world number ones, and over the years. I'm not doing as much now, but because I'm not traveling quite as much as I used to. But I still love it and working with certain players, young players, etc. And I've had LPGA players, obviously a lot of LPGA players as well, and it is different how you approach it. And so it's I guess when you're working with the average player, and to me it's been enjoyable. I don't care the point I was getting to was that I still get satisfaction even working with a higher handicap who sort of eliminates their slice or breaks 100 for the first time. It's still fun for me. That's how I learned. That's how I learned to teach this game. Look, I turned professional when I was 17, right? I not quite as young as Bernhard Langer, but almost. But I wanted to be a player. But I taught at an early age, and when back then, 50 years ago, heck, we didn't have video and all the other technology we have now, right? So you had to use your eyes. So teaching those sort of players, and I think that's one of the things that we get a lot of our teachers when I say never, but to go through periods where they don't use any sort of technology to teach, because you want them to use their eyes and their instincts. I think a lot of young teachers now, they get a TrackMan and they think, okay, now we know what we've got to do. Well, that's not. TrackMan just tells you what's happening, right? It doesn't tell you why it's happening. Okay, it might tell you the what, but it doesn't tell you the how or the why. Mm-hmm. So that's what you have to learn as a teacher and a coach. And so I'm always encouraging our teachers, young teachers who we're training, because we have over 120 teachers worldwide who we train. We've got a David Ledbetter University now where you can actually go online and actually learn, the Ledbetter philosophy, if you want to call it that. But all different aspects of the game. And
Yes.
so, which is interesting. And so, because to me, if we're going to keep the game healthy, I mean, it's all about getting people to play better golf, okay, and enjoy the game more, no matter what level of player they are. Enjoy it and actually understand what they're trying to do. So it's I think a lot of young teachers, they don't teach enough, and they sort of almost just, you get a lot of these young teachers, they get a TrackMan, and maybe they're pretty good players themselves, and they want to go straight into teaching tour players. Well, that's not quite the way you should do it. You got to learn the trade, and you put your time in working with some high handicappers and beginners and so on, and then you get the odd good player, and if you get a reputation, you get more good players, and that's how I started, right? So and so I'm happy that's the way I actually learned to get into the game and coaching and teaching, because I say it's a different language you have to speak. As I said earlier, you got to get inside somebody's head, and you got to keep it really simple for the average golfer. And so they when they leave, they haven't got their head full of stuff, right? The old, as John Jacobs used to term it in English, paralysis through analysis.
Yeah.
And you can throw so much information at people. I mean, if say going on YouTube and you've got all this, millions of bits of advice.
They are searching for this information for themselves, and then they're coming and I need to turn up, down, left, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, every single thing under the sun, right, is like, okay, well, don't dip. Okay. Well, you're throwing it from the top, or don't do. It's like, well, that's like saying, well, stop coughing and you'll feel better. Okay. Well, thank you. That's pretty simple, right? But but so it's. I mean, I think teaching tour players, you've got to get into a little bit more of the detail, shall we say? You've got to understand a little bit more the cause and effect. You can see with a lot of amateurs how it's very obvious what they've got to do, and so much of it starts to say with grip and posture and the start of the swing. That's as I've said before, and I think to me less is more with and even with tour players. I'll get some tour players I know. Listen, you can't get overly technical with them. You've got to get if this person is a field player. And I mean, imagine trying to give Bubba Watson a golf lesson. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, what are you going to tell him, right? I mean, it's like the guy makes a different swing every time he, steps up to the golf ball. So so that's the fascinating part about this. And I say it does take a certain level of experience and instinct and intuition to work with tour players. You can get a little bit more systematic, I suppose, with your beginners, and then once they start to get a little bit better, then you've got to become a little bit more individualized as well. And remembering that you've got to, the short game is such an important part to teach people too, because I say, I know one of your questions, well, how should people practice? Well, really, I mean, if you had an hour to practice, probably 15 minutes should be on your long game, and 45 minutes should be on your short game. Your chipping, your pitching, your putting, your bunker play, right? Because that's really where people learn to score. And I mean, people are only going to hit the ball so well. They're only going to hit the ball so far for the most part. So, hey, but you can really improve your short game tremendously. And it's funny when you go to a golf course and you look at the driving range, and it's full of people whacking drivers, and you go and look over at the short game, there's about 2 people there. It's strange. And, it's back to front, really, how people look at this game.
But it's this way since since you're teaching.
Absolutely.
So and I think it will never change.
Well, it's part of our job as teachers and coaches to advise people not only what to do, but how to do it. How to do it also incorporates sort of like a practice plan and a routine, and sort of how you and see the improvement in that area. That's why, I mean, obviously now there's even for amateurs, there's statistics out there. So you can see, well, how many, you're having 40 putts around. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where we need to spend more time, or, every time you get within 10 meters of the green, it takes you at least 3 shots, three, possibly more to get down. Well, then, hey, we can cut some shots off your score by doing that. So, that's why it's fascinating, and it's always going to be, golf is never going to be an exact science. It's always an art, and so to a large extent, I mean, yes, there's science behind it, and we have to look at certain scientific principles, and we know now we've obviously got. A good friend of mine is JJ Rivet, who's one of the world's leading biomechanists. And,
he was with us with the Congress last year. Yeah, JJ.
Yeah. So, I work hand in hand with JJ a lot and it's interesting how you can see how movement patterns, even for high handicappers, players who sort of I guess the great thing with technology, it actually proves more so than say just with 2D video. I mean, now we're into 3D analysis. I'm involved with a company called Sportsbox, which is going to be huge. I mean, you're going to see that in Germany very shortly, but it's like you can take your iPhone, film somebody on 2D and transfer that to 3D without any markers or anything. So check it out, Sportsbox. It's amazing, amazing technology, very simple. And so it'll actually give you measurements and so on. So that's the thing for me with technology, even with TrackMan. I still like to teach without using it. I use it to start with to get numbers, to get measurements, in the case of, say, Sportsbox. But then after that, after I've worked with them, then we can actually show, hey, look at the improvement that you've made here. And also when somebody's really playing well, you know what your numbers are, right? So it's like you can see, well, hey, when you were really playing well, you were 3 degrees from the inside with your driver. Now you're 6. Okay, so we've got to rectify that.
Let's see. Yeah, I think
that's how technology, in my opinion, should be used. Largely, rather than just using it to say, okay, well, let's get everybody to 0. Well, okay, good luck.
Yeah, but I think that's the most advantage from TrackMan, measure plate, force plates, and so on, that you can measure what is right now and what are you doing when you're playing well, and what are you doing when you're playing 100%. Poorly.
I believe that wholeheartedly, and I tell people that all the time, rather than just saying, okay, here's TrackMan. Well, okay, well. You look, a good player in one swing can change the numbers on TrackMan. One swing. You say, okay, I want you to swing out more to the right. Oh, okay, good. Well, does that fix the problem? Temporarily, maybe, but it's like, okay, well,
that's the tip. That's the one tip from.
That's a tip
from the horse race. David, maybe last 2 questions. First one, we just mentioned some of the things. What is your opinion on the future of golf? You just mentioned something like Sportsbox, so you can video with your iPhone and get a 3D video and analysis. What do you think? What is nobody knows what is possible. What will come in the next years? I mean, you're involved in some of these projects.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think some of the things. They've always predicted it would happen, and I'm sure it will in the not too distant future, where you almost create a hologram where you could actually design a swing for that particular person, right? And then, okay, so somebody then has a way of being able to rehearse their swing. I mean, they've done it to a certain extent, but nothing to the extent that they be able to sort of almost get inside it and practice maybe at home. Okay, that's what I mean, because time is a factor in golf. We know that people don't have a lot of time to play and to practice. And it's, the golf swing is a precision movement. I mean, first of all, what we feel we do and when we actually do are 2 different things anyway. So we don't know exactly what's taking place. How do you know if the swing is 2 degrees more upright or, 4 centimeters shorter than normal or whatever? Who knows? I mean, you don't know. You just assume, right? And it's all by feel. So I think I think that's something that will come. I think there'll be more emphasis on playing the game too, being able to sort of, hey, take what you've got and maximize what you've got rather than just trying to, everybody says, okay, you got par 72. Okay, well, you got to hit 14 fairways and 18 greens. Well, that's not going to happen for most people. So how do you figure out if you hit 5 fairways around, or maybe you hit more fairways, but you're hitting maybe, not as far, but you're playing a game that, I would say if you're an 18 handicapper, think of it this way. Think of par 3s as being par 4s, par 4s as par 5s, and par 5s as par 6s. Okay, that way it takes the pressure off you trying to, maybe with things like a tour player, right? I've got to hit down the middle. I've got to hit it, on the green. I've got a 2 putt for par, all right, or 1 putt for birdie. well, that's fine if you're a scratch handicap player or you're a tour level player. But so I think there'll be more emphasis on sort of the strategy side of things. And, it's hard to tell exactly where it's going to go. I mean, because you think, well, maybe we've reached our limit now, but then something else comes out, right? People are always trying to find, the secret or the holy grail as far as this game is concerned. That's what gives us a job, right? That's what keeps us gives us a living, right? I mean,
right.
All, I always remember.
Don't tell.
No, exactly. Because I always remember when I joined Callaway way over 20 years ago. Ely Callaway, who founded the company, was alive, and he said, David, you and us, meaning Callaway, we're all in the same business. I said, really? How's that, Ely? He said, we're in the business of selling hope. And when you think about it, it's like, what do we do in golf? We always live in hope, right? I mean, man, I played my best golf last week, and I'm looking forward to this week. And
I want to be more consistency.
You hope you hope you find the right driver. You hope you find the right putter. You hope you beat your friend, and so hope is one of those words that we always live in, and that's what keeps us going, I think.
Okay, so let's extend the hope. Let's extend the hope. Right. Let's keep it alive. Keep
hope alive. Exactly.
Right. David, last question, but I think you will laugh about it. What is your maybe best advice to all of our viewers, to all of the amateur golfers right now in Germany, in Austria, in your keep smiling, right? For this season, let's say for this season.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Your season, it's just about to start or just started, so which is good. But look, just find a good teaching professional who you have trust in, and just work on some fundamentals that, especially in the beginning of the season, it's always good. I mean, I always think that's why it's always good during the off season, really, in reality, that you sort of work on some things whereby when you start off in April, May, whenever, that you're ready to go. But, get yourself, I mean, it's a very tough game to play on your own. And especially, listening to your husband or listening to your wife, I mean, that's a kiss of death, right? I mean, so, or listening to your friends who probably know less than you do, so it's like, hey, well, you're doing this, you're doing that. Yeah. Get yourself, really, obviously there's got a lot of great teachers in Germany, and find yourself a good teaching professional and get into a system of sort of on a, in the beginning, maybe you have, a few lessons quite close together, and then spread it out a little bit there every month or so, going for a checkup just to make sure you're doing what you think you're supposed to be doing. And that way you keep on top of things. And when people improve after taking lessons, it's not an accident. Okay. So a lot of people think, okay, I'm fine now, I can go and play. Well, I mean, if that's the limit of your expectations, that's fine. But if you want to keep improving a little bit here and there, and get out and have the odd playing lesson too, because the odd playing lesson can really help you more than just standing on the range hitting balls. Okay, because that's, you've got to go out on the golf course and play golf, not play swing. That's one of the big problems that people have, right?
Play golf, don't practice golf. Yes.
Yeah, they take their practice tee philosophy out onto the golf course. That's why even when you're practicing, you can actually incorporate a little bit of on-course sort of an on-course approach. Play the golf course on the practice tee, right? So here's the first hole. Okay, here's the driver. Boom, perfect. I mean, I did that years ago with Nick Faldo when he won the Masters. He was not in good shape mentally, but when we started to actually play the course on the range, his mind got into playing rather than thinking about and worrying about the swing and everything else. So it's a way of being able to help yourself to improve. And say a good teaching professional is who's going to help you to do that. So find somebody with a good reputation, in your area or at your club, and this applies to men, women, juniors, seniors, whoever, because I always say, as people get older, people are, oh, well, I'm too old for lessons, or I'm this. Nonsense. It's rubbish. I mean, if you keep yourself reasonably fit, and that's why I love golf, because I say people who keep themselves active in golf, they feel better in their general overall health. So to me, it's the holistic approach to golf. And so, the golf ball, as you get older, the golf ball does not know how old you are. Okay. So if you make a good move and you put the club on the ball, hey, maybe you lose a little bit of distance as you get older, but if you keep your flexibility, you keep your suppleness, and your technique is decent, you're still going to play good golf for a long time.
Yeah, right. I think that's the best tip you can give. Yeah, go and see your pro. Yeah, although we both are pros and telling go and see your pro. Yeah, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. So well, I've enjoyed doing this, Fabian. So thank you for inviting me.
David, thank you for your time. Really, thank you. We are really proud to have you.
Thank you. As I said, anytime, and I hope the Congress goes really well. I'm sure everybody out there enjoys it, and if you can pick up one little tip here or there, that when I say tip, little bits of information. That's what it's all about, And so you can try it. That's a great thing with golf, right? We're always experimenting. Look, I gave Arnold Palmer a lesson when he was 78 years old, right? So everybody's trying to get better.
Yeah, that's it. Hope. So let's hope this will be a good season for you, for your business, for your academies, for you personally, and maybe see you in America, see you soon in Germany, maybe.
Yeah, well, hopefully see you in Germany at some stage soon.
Yeah, would be really nice. David, thank you. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your morning. It's early in the morning in Florida, and so everybody who's now with us, thank you for watching. I think, and I hope, and I think you got some tips or some informations here and there, and I think David got some of this stuff. Start with 0 mistakes. Look at your fundamentals. Look at your move away. Not your takeaway, your move away, and all these things.
You got it.
Yeah, right. Okay, so. Thanks you, David. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the Congress in the next days, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.